Hi, we're here today with Ken Banks from QuantaNet. We're very pleased to have him. He just opened the introductory session of ICTD2010 at the Royal Holloway, and we were talking about impacts and impact assessment in ICT4D projects. And I wanted to ask you, Ken, you brought up a point that we're not actually doing a very good job at impact assessment. Why do you think that is?
Yes, good question. I think that everyone's asking what the impacts of all these tools and all these projects and all these websites and even all these conferences are. I think, looking at this morning, 500 people converging into London for 4 days. What's the impact of that going to be? And what's the outcome of these things? I think the problem with impact on ICT4D projects in particular is that a lot of the impact is anecdotal or it's social, and it's not necessarily easy or particularly easy to measure. So people aren't necessarily sure what they're measuring. And economics is relatively easy, as we mentioned earlier, because it's numbers, right? So if a number goes up, then the impact may be good. If it goes down, it may be bad. But if people are just generally better off, or they're more personally gratified, or they just have better access to healthcare but don't actually have to ever use it, what does that actually mean? What is the impact of that? So I think that the problem is that no one's really, that I've found yet, sat down and really figured out what it is we should be measuring, on what scale, and then allow us to compare one project with another project based on that scale.
And this morning there was some interesting discussion about who should be doing what in terms of, at this meeting we have a lot of academics, we have a lot of researchers, but we also have a lot of field practitioners, people from development organizations, bilateral agencies, funding agencies. Where do you think the responsibility lies here?
It probably relies in all of that, I guess. Different actors and different people have different wants and wishes and objectives from what they do. So when we built Frontline SMS, I wasn't particularly interested in figuring out how I measured the impact of it. It became quite clear very early on that it was having an impact, but I didn't think I was the right person to try and understand what that was. Again, I think that some academics are very interested in researching this, but again, they have no particular interest in having any particular impact themselves on what happens in the field. I think some just want to write for a journal. So, we should never assume necessarily that just because academia seems to be this distant foreign language kind of discipline where they write things that nobody understands, maybe it's what they want, right? So we need to try and get into a situation where more academics can write in a way which is more accessible. I think it's for practitioners, I think it's for academics, I think it's for donors, I think it's for the non-profits themselves, I think it's for everybody to try and sit down and figure out how we measure the impact and how we compare one project with another, for example, because we all stand to benefit.
Right. And if you could think of one important thing for somebody who is new, say a young student or somebody just starting to work in the development field, or people who are actually working in their own communities, say with NGOs, to improve ICT4D, where would you tell them to look first?
So I would say probably over and above everything else, understand the problem. And that would usually involve getting out in the field and spending time with the communities, with the people, with the non-profits, whoever it may be. Put the technology to one side, forget the ICT bit and focus on the D bit, and study it, read up, try and understand the history of it, the context, and try and understand what life is like for the people you're trying to help, and then think about whether or not a technology solution may work, because you may actually find that the answer is a solar lamp, in which case you might not think that's ICT4D, but you don't want to be forcing anything on to people where there might not be a need. So I would say get out, understand the problem before you do anything else.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.